And what is up, everyone? I am Joe DeHoyos. I'm host of Beyond the Woodline. Real quick before we get started, a few little announcements I always like to make. Um, for those of you who don't know, I am the executive director for the JRG, which stands for the Jevning Research Group. It's headed up and founded by Mr. William Jevning. He's got like 50 years of experience in the Bigfoot field. He's a really, really great guy, and we have teams all over the country. Uh, we have teams in New York State, Michigan, Ohio, Oklahoma, Florida, Louisiana, here in Texas, where I'm at, of course, New Mexico, Oregon, California. Um, if you're interested in joining the team and want to research this creature that we all know and love and call Bigfoot or Sasquatch, depending on your what you want to call the creature, just shoot me an email, beyond.woodline@gmail.com. We'll get you guys started. If there's a team in your state and you want to join it, again, just shoot me a message. We'll get a hold of those people for you. Or if you just want to start your own team, you're more than welcome to do that. But if we set you up with anyone, we will vet you, we will vet them, and we ask you to do your own research on these people also, because unfortunately, there are some crazy people in this world. So you just want to go and research someone before you go out in the woods with them. We always say research the researcher. Also, if you go to YouTube and look for Will Jevning and type in Bigfoot Southwest, um, it's a documentary. It's with Will, of course, and he's looking for Bigfoot or witnesses here in the Southwest. And me and my friend Walter are in this, so go check it out. I think you'll really enjoy it. It's a really cool documentary. And with all that being said, I know you guys don't tune in to hear me ramble on all night. I have with me from Tucson Ghost Company and Society, Miss Becky. Becky, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks a lot for doing the show. I do appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, and yeah, if you don't mind, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you started in this crazy field we find ourselves in?
Well, basically, I was raised in a haunted house back in Toledo, Ohio. So the house I lived in was built in the 1880s and it was haunted. I've had paranormal experiences my entire life, and I just got more and more curious about it. My first major experience was in my 20s. And after that, my curiosity just kept growing. But I was basically always told not to talk about it. So it wasn't until I met my current husband that I was flipping through channels and found paranormal TV shows and found that people talk about it, to where I finally said, screw it, I'm going to start talking about it. And I started exploring and researching and learning, and that's got me where I'm at now.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So let me ask you, how old were you when you like figured out that okay, there's something going on here, and this is what it might be, or this is what it is?
Well, I grew up with an abnormal situation. So not only did I live in this old haunted house, but I lived with my grandma, my grandpa, my mom, and my aunt. And my grandma was very sensitive to the paranormal. And I would hear my grandma and my aunt talk about ghostly things, but they didn't directly always talk to me about it. So from a young age, I remember, hearing them talk about it. I didn't really realize what was going on until I was probably, about 10, 11, to where I started thinking, okay, this house is kind of creepy and I don't like certain areas. Uh, but again, even when I made comments about it, they didn't want to talk about it. It was like a hush hush thing. You don't talk about it. So it wasn't until, I was probably in my teens or in my 20s that I finally realized, okay, I'm having a lot of paranormal experiences. I'm feeling things and seeing things others aren't. And, again, though, I was told quiet. So it wasn't until I actually started my company that I started realizing how many paranormal experiences I've had in my life.
Oh wow, okay,
And I've had a lot.
yeah. So was there like a defining moment or something specific that happened that made you say, okay, there's something else out there. There's something, uh, paranormal.
Well, I've always been sensitive to it. I've always been one of those weird kids, always aware. But the major, I think, moment that kind of hit me that made me go, how, what, why, made me question everything I knew was when I lived in an apartment complex in Toledo. And I was home alone with my cat and my oldest daughter, who was only maybe a year old at the time. And we were sitting in the third bedroom, which we had set up as like a guest room and a TV room. And I heard a loud crash and I couldn't figure out, where it was coming from. I thought, oh, great, the cat knocked something over. So I went on a search throughout the apartment. And what I found was a picture on a wall, literally flipped. So you could see the little hook, that you hang the picture on. It was flipped. The glass was broke. The picture was outside of the frame, all scratched up. And I, of course, picked up the glass in the picture, but I left the frame on the wall. And it was kind of like crooked and it was flipped, but I left it alone. I didn't touch it. And there's a reason behind that. I kept telling my ex that the place was haunted, and he didn't believe me. He was like, oh, it's imagination, it's not haunted. So I was like, okay, I don't understand how a picture flips on the wall.
Right.
And when he came home from work that night, I showed him the picture frame and he even noticed it was flipped. It was obvious that it had flipped. And he goes, why did you flip it? And I'm like, I didn't. And he was so skeptical that he's looking around trying to find excuses. And we had the window open and he literally blamed the wind for flipping the picture on the wall. I'm like, I've never heard of wind flipping a picture before.
Right.
But that's where I thought, okay, this is like really freaky when they can move things and actually, break something. Up until then, I had seen things, heard things, felt things, but I had never actually had something move or break. So that was the huge turning point for me.
So were you ever scared at all in that house or?
Um, the house I grew up in when I was a kid, yes, because I didn't
Okay.
understand it and I didn't know what was going on. There was a certain section of the house I refused to go in after dark. I just refused. Um, as I got older, I, would get those odd feelings like I was never alone and it was an uncomfortable feeling. Which is why I would always stay in like the smallest rooms possible, which I hate small rooms, but I felt more safe in them. Um, ever since I started doing this, though, like ever since I've started exploring the paranormal, I'm not scared of the ghost. I'm not scared of the paranormal activity. I'm more scared of the team will tease me for this and they will call me out on this too. So I'm more scared of the bugs. I don't like
Yeah,
the bugs. I'm more scared of the bugs. And then the other thing that I worry about is when we go to certain places, I worry, about humans being there. Like
of
if it's
course.
an
Yeah.
abandoned place, I'm worried about a human being there. But other than that, the paranormal part of it doesn't scare me.
Yeah.
It may
That's
shock
pretty
me, but not scare me.
right. Yeah. But that's pretty similar to me because like I go out, I do my Bigfoot thing, and I'm not scared of that, right?
Mhm.
I want something to happen, right? But believe it or not, I can't stand snakes. I don't want anything to do with snakes, But I'm out in the woods, right? So we've run into plenty of them, and I
Yeah,
don't I don't like snakes. Number one, and number two, it's people that I'm worried about.
you're right.
Yeah, so that's like the only thing that really bothers me. Uh, but so I lived in a house. I would, my first marriage, I lived in a house, and uh, that place was like extremely haunted, and nothing there I would say was scary, but it certainly startled us from time to time.
Exactly.
And at that moment, like one night, I say night, it's probably 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. I woke up and I just saw a lady standing there. I just saw her silhouette, just dark, just completely black, and she moved towards me, and I threw a kick at her, and I said, "Get back, MF!" Right? But she wasn't trying to scare me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But it scared the hell out of me at that time. And I was probably like sat there for like I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 minutes processing what happened, and I went right back to sleep. Because I knew that she wasn't like, "Hey, I'm gonna get you," or anything demonic or anything like that. And we would hear footsteps, Um, we all were touched or poked at one time or another, which is kind of scary in itself. But like I said, I don't think the people there, and I say people because we think it was the original owners and the only owners of that house that's who it was. But
Right.
they were just, I don't know, maybe like, hey, what are you doing in my house? Or I don't know, but
Yep.
yeah, uh,
Yeah, it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't really scare me, but it will, startle or shock you and you don't expect it.
mhm.
So you will scream or whatever because, just like when people sneak up behind you and, do
Right, yeah,
something. That's all it
right,
is.
yeah,
I've had that happen to me a couple times to where, I ask them to communicate and I'm sitting there alone in the dark, and all of a sudden I get tugged on or, something, and
right,
it startles me. I remember one time at Fox Theater here in Tucson, we were doing an event. And after the event, I told the team, let's hang behind because I could tell they were being active because they kept playing with lights and stuff that night. And so we stayed behind after the public left. And I'm sitting there and we're all in different sections of the theater. So I'm sitting there by myself. And, I'm like, it seems like you guys want to communicate. Now's the best time before we leave. And my shirt got tugged on so hard. It was the hardest I've ever been tugged on before. That I stirred up and I said a few choice words, but I could have sworn that like a human being, got locked in with us or something. Like maybe we didn't let all the public out or something. And so
right.
I turned around and there's no one there. And I was like, okay, I apologized to the ghost. I'm like, I'm sorry I screamed and said those words, but you kind of shocked me. I didn't know that that was going to happen. And afterwards, I'm like, "You can do it again," So it's not that, I'm scared of it, it's just the fact that, you don't expect it, so it gives you that startle that kind of throws you off.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. I remember one night I was asleep, and maybe it was like early in the morning. Everybody was ready up, and I was still, being lazy and in bed. And I felt the covers get tugged, like they were being tugged off me, right? But I had it like this, so when it tugged, it pulled me, and I was able to hold on to it. And for like a split second, I got mad because I figured it's one of my kids in there messing with me, but there was nobody there. There's nobody there, and I was like, oh wow. So yeah, that was so funny. Um,
Yeah. They just
yeah,
have their way of getting your attention, and they'll do it
yeah,
any way they
exactly.
can, and,
Mhm.
sometimes it's, kinda shocking or startling, and you just have to take it and laugh at it and, apologize if you offend them by, cursing at them, but
So do you go on investigations, like different locations, or?
yes.
Yeah,
Tucson Ghost Society is the paranormal team, and we're nonprofit. So, we never charge for an investigation. We've helped, residents with paranormal concerns. We've helped businesses with paranormal concerns. We've been on so many cases, I've lost count.
yeah,
But we have been a lot of places. And on my own, I have done things with, my husband. There's a time we went to California and he rented out the Whaley house. So we got to investigate the Whaley house, just him and I. So, it's something that I, do as a hobby and I do professionally. So it's a lot of fun and I love doing it. And the company is where I make the money with the tours and ghost hunts and all the public things that we do.
okay. So what exactly is your company, and what do you guys do?
Well, the Tucson Ghost Company was actually started in 2013, so I've been doing 12 years. It started with a simple ghost tour, which we are calling now the Tucson Haunted History because we have revamped it. So we have the walking tour of downtown Tucson, and we're the only, I always point this out, we're the only locally owned one, and we're the only ones that have all original stories because we've
Good.
investigated pretty much every building on our tour. We have competitors that are nationwide, so they don't know all the personal stories like we do,
Yeah,
and they don't know the history as well as we do. Uh, and then we have ghost hunts. We do one at downtown Tucson, but it's on Monday nights at JoJo's called Monday Booze. And we have two in Tombstone right now. One at Undertaker's Espresso Bar that we call the Haunts of the Undertaker, and the other one at Hotel Tombstone that we call Haunted Arcade because we're mainly in the lobby arcade area. And as everyone can imagine, Tombstone has a lot of haunted history. So there, a lot of haunts there. And what a lot of people don't realize though is that Tucson is actually, I think, more haunted than Tombstone, but Tombstone's more known for it.
Okay. Yeah, I was, yeah, I would think Tombstone is probably more of a household name than Tucson. But so what's the history of Tucson?
Yeah.
What's the history of that? Is it did something happen there in particular, or is it just a bunch of stuff that happened?
Um, well, I am not the fan of my team. I will admit that.
Okay.
When I started, I did as much research as I could, but luckily we brought in a historian. Her name is Kira, and she loves to go down those rabbit holes. I always tell
Yeah.
her that she loves to go down a rabbit hole when she, researches. Um, what she's found out and what we've come to learn is that Tucson is like one of the second oldest cities in the United States of America.
Oh wow.
So the only reason we're not really known for it is because for a while Tucson was a part of like Mexico. So we
Yeah.
weren't considered, US, for the longest time. One of the longest inhabited cities in America. I think there's only one, and I cannot for the life of me remember which other one that has been longer. I'm going to say somewhere back east, of course, but um, first it was part of Mexico. Then we had the Spaniards come in. We had the Presidio. Now I know for sure that the Presidio alone dates back to 1775. And a lot of downtown was part of that original Presidio, which means that's where a lot of the first settlers, came in. So that's why a lot of downtown is covered in history and haunts. Plus, they did a lot of burying of cemeteries and moving and building on top of them, but that's another story.
Right. Right.
But we,
Yeah. Yeah. For
definitely
sure.
date back to that. I think she covered what she discovered was like 1692 was some of the first history of Tucson. I think she went as far back to do. So yeah, it is definitely something that has been, around for a while. And I know a lot of people think Tombstone with, the OK Corral, but we had a lot of that here too. A lot of the gunfights, a lot of the Wild West, a lot of the mining. We had that all here in Tucson too. So we have a lot more history actually than Tombstone. And this is, I think, what a lot of people don't realize is everyone that went to Tombstone basically had to come through Tucson first because that's where the train came through. So they would come to Tucson, get off the train at Tucson, and then travel on to Tombstone. So we even have part of that OK Corral history here in Tucson. One of the gunfights between Wyatt and Frank Stillwell actually happened here in Tucson at the train department in downtown. So we
Oh,
have that
okay. Yeah.
history too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty cool stuff
Yeah.
right there. Yeah. You talked about um, like cemeteries and people moving or whatever. So like here in Texas, and
Hmm.
I'm wondering, I know there's only like 4 states, but Texas is one of those states that they don't have to move the bodies, when they build buildings and stuff or whatever. Yeah, yeah. Like I said, Texas is only one of 4 states that don't do that. So like all of like where downtown is at and the medical center area and where the zoo is at, we got a pretty big zoo. That whole area, it was like a triage for like wounded soldiers and stuff during the Civil War. And so, but, of course, a lot of them died and
Oh
they
wow.
got buried there. So yeah, so they uh, built just over it. And then, so we had a hurricane
Yeah.
several years ago. I can't remember which one it was, Harvey or I don't know, remember, but bones actually came up out of the ground. Yeah, but that whole area, and I've
Oh
been there
wow.
before. Yeah, and I've been there before doing investigations, but that whole area is very active, and even now, still to this day, people report seeing soldiers and stuff walking around the park, and yeah, it's pretty cool history, here in Houston.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, I'm sure Tucson's the same way too. Yeah, I actually like that. It makes me want to go to Tucson now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Our
uh,
downtown, there's several different cemeteries that They either built on top of or they did start moving them. I know the latest one happened when they built the brand new courthouse area, and they ended up having to they ended up having to move. Um, gosh, I can't remember how many bodies. It was like in the thousands, I think. But they ended up moving all kinds of bodies once they started, the construction of it, and it was just reading about it. It was amazing, what all they were finding, and they were doing some renovations on the old courthouse that they're changing for. They're still working on it, I think, but they dug out like a bunch of Indian artifacts, and just anytime you dig in downtown Tucson, you end up finding something.
You're right, for sure. Yeah,
So unless
but
you
you
want
know,
to find something, I would suggest you don't dig.
yeah, you know, but that's a good way to learn about your history. At least in your region. You know,
Mhm.
it's unfortunate sometimes when you find out the bad stuff, but I think even that's kind of important too. To kind of learn about and pass on. Uh, but I did want to ask you too, have you or do you go to cemeteries to do any investigations?
Um, yes and no. We don't do official investigations at cemeteries. We have walked around them. I just I guess personally I don't like investigating cemeteries for a couple reasons. Number one, I even as a child, I found cemeteries to be somewhat like a sacred place. And so I feel investigating them is kind of in the wrong, I guess. Um, and I honestly don't believe a lot of cemeteries are haunted. Sure, there are some, but in my belief, I believe they go somewhere that they enjoyed, not where they're actually buried, but they go to, like for me, I keep saying I'm going to go haunt Disneyland because I love Disney, but I think that they go somewhere that they're familiar with, that they enjoyed, that they have an attachment to. So I don't really see cemeteries as being as haunted. I do believe there's exceptions, like the ones where they get disrupted and moved and things like that. I find those to have more of hauntings than the ones that are just, kind of there.
Right. Yeah.
But no, I've walked around them. I love walking cemeteries, to be honest with you. Only because of the history, to see tombstones dated back to who knows how long ago.
Yeah.
One thing that and this is really I don't know how people will view this, but I've taken my family to old cemeteries and we've walked around. And what my family does though is when we walk around these old cemeteries, even my girls will do this. If we see, things knocked over or out of place, we fix it. So like if
Yeah.
my girls or myself see flowers, knocked over, we will fix up the grave, make it look pretty again. So that's what we do when we walk the old cemeteries. We don't necessarily investigate them, but we kind of go, and we did a cleanup one time of a cemetery. My team, this was years ago. There was an old abandoned cemetery that kind of got forgotten about, and we did a cleanup. So we went there and helped clean it up. So that's mainly what cemeteries. I kind of help clean them up or make them look good again.
Yeah.
Not
No.
really investigate.
Yeah. That's pretty good. Right. Yeah. I've been to a couple of cemeteries, but they've been like old cemeteries, really creepy looking, especially at night. And so like my view is like if they want to talk to you or interact with you, they will. You know, if they don't, they
Mhm.
don't. So that's just the way I look at it. And as long as you're respectful and um, you know,
Right.
for me, I think it's okay. Yeah. Um, so what's some of the best evidence that you've captured?
Um, Most of my evidence is EVPs. We get those a lot, actually, and we've gotten some really good ones. They say my name, which I love that. I love it when I hear my name. Some people it freaks them out. At first, I'll admit it did freak me out, but now I love it. I think video evidence, the best evidence we've ever gotten is I got a shadow on a wall behind me, and that shadow or that ghost. actually followed me home. And I had an attachment from that one for probably about a week or two. So, but we don't get a lot of video evidence, it seems. It seems to be more EVPs, and we've gotten some really good voices and very clear EVPs to where there's no doubt what it's being said. We had one that it was actually on a camera, but it was just a voice. We didn't catch a visual. And we were coming down the stairs, and this was during setup. So we had just turned on the camera. We were getting things situated, and we were, discussing what was where and, how we were going to do this. And as we're coming down the stairs, we get this response going, "Oh, hey, kids." And that was just loud and clear, and no one was down there with us. So they were just greeting us as we were going down there to start the investigation. And I was actually very happy that they thought we were kids.
Right. Yeah. Was the voice male, female? Could you tell?
It was an older male.
Okay. Hmm.
So, and he, apparently we looked young to him, which I was very grateful for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he just greeted us like, "Oh, hey there, kids."
Yeah.
And,
That's really
we did not even know that that had happened until we played back the, video. And it was like right there in the microphone. It was so loud. But yeah, that's the best evidence we get is through the EVPs. Visual seems to be so rare for us.
mhm.
But then again, we don't use cameras as much as we used to. It's just it takes so much time to set up all the cameras. I've been trying to find an easier system to use with the cameras. Right now we're using trail cams.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to find like an easier like wireless system to
Mhm.
use at investigations, but haven't really found one in our price range yet. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. I've actually got bought a body cam. It was like $40, and it just
Hmm.
clips on
We
to your
use those
shirt.
too.
And they work great. They have infrared. Um,
Hmm.
I've never caught anything, but man, they film really good. It's like I said, even at night. It's really good
Yeah,
quality.
we use the body cams and the trail cams right now. We used to have an actual DVR system, but the problem with that is it was all wired, and so we always had to find an outlet. We had to run the wires, and the setup would take like an hour alone. So it was like it would cut into investigation time really bad. So we did away with that, and then we just started using the trail cams and the body cams. A lot of times, though, to be honest, we forget to wear the body cams, so we just have the trail cams. So we got
Yeah.
to get in a better habit of wearing those body cameras.
You
That's
know,
for sure.
I've never tried to take a trail cam on an investigation, but that's not a bad idea. But something that I have done, of course, when I do my Bigfoot stuff, my trail cams are always out. But I did catch a mist in front of my camera one time. You know, that was the only picture I caught all night long, and it's like something set it off, and there was like a mist. There was like this smoky, misty thing in front of my camera. So that was
Oh,
pretty
that's
cool.
cool.
Yeah, that was like the only cool thing
Yeah.
that I've ever caught on that trail cam. Yeah, and for that matter too, I think there's a lot more paranormal stuff that goes on, like in the forest, than what people think, and it gets all
Hmm.
lumped in there with Bigfoot. Oh, I heard footsteps, or I hear voices, or something got thrown. It has to be a Bigfoot, right? I'm like, and this is something I've just come to start thinking over the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, that there's probably a lot more paranormal stuff that goes on in the forest than what people think, or but they got Bigfoot on the brain, so it's a big,
Right.
but yeah, that's pretty cool. And I had a friend of mine, he was actually setting up a trail cam, and something in his ear goes, psst, just like that, you know?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I had a friend that we were on an investigation, and when she was sitting, we were all facing like different ways to kind of keep our eyes on things to see what was happening in different directions. And so she was sitting facing one way by herself, and we were a few feet away from her. And she had someone come up and whisper in her ear, "Hey." And that made her jump. And she was like, "Okay, I feel a little uncomfortable now." Because it was like right in her ear. So
what did it
that
say?
made her a little comfy. It just said, "Hey." It
Hey,
was like
okay.
getting her attention. It was like, "Hey." But it kind of freaked her out. She didn't like it because she was by herself sitting there, and something came right up to her ear.
Yeah, I have a cousin of mine. He was him and I think it was two of my cousins. and one of their friends, they were out doing an investigation. I think it was in South Texas, in Victoria, Texas. They have, of course, like here in Texas, we have a lot of missions and things like that, especially like around San Antonio and South Texas. And they were getting ready to leave, and they had all their stuff packed up already, and they were like, like basically saying, "You got to stay here, right? You can't come with us."
Mhm.
And that's what they were saying. And they heard all three of them heard a voice out loud say, "No, don't go." And it was a woman. You
Oh.
know, yeah, they all heard it. And he says, "Of course, we got all our stuff packed up. Nothing's gone."
All right.
Yeah, yeah, but that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, you always get, the sight of something off camera or the voice when you don't have a recorder going. It's like they know. They know that you're not facing that way or doing that.
Yeah, we've tried that. Like, so in that house that I lived in when I was in my first marriage, um, we would set up the camera and set up recorders all the time, and nothing. We only got like one EVP that the whole time we were there. But and that was my son asking, "Is anybody with us?" And you hear a voice go, "Yeah," just like that. And that was the only thing. But I mean, we all saw stuff and felt stuff, and there was no doubt in our mind that something was there. I had one of my cousins doing some work on the house one time, and he was talking about what he was going to be doing, and he kept looking. We were sitting in the kitchen. He was kept looking at his arm. He was like rubbing his arm like that.
Mhm.
And when he was doing that, me and my ex-wife and my kids, we were all looking at each other because we knew something was going on because of Emmanuel. And finally, he's like, "Dude, somebody's squeezing my arm." So we started telling him about what happened about the house. The next day when he came in, he held up his forearm like that. He had 4 bruises, like finger-length bruises on his arm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we think again it was the original owners probably didn't want him messing with the house. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, but
Yeah, they get sensitive
yeah,
about things like that,
yeah,
and they don't want, their familiarity, to things gone. So
mm.
that's why when you do the renovations, activity usually does kick up on things.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. And that's what we think what it was. But we certainly didn't take it as anything evil or yeah,
Right.
you just, hey, don't mess with my house.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, "What are you doing? Don't mess with us." Yeah, I offended I was at the Undertaker's one night and I offended the spirits there and I didn't mean to. What had ended up happening was I have more well, right now we're all females, but I had just my female investigators with me that night and they were having some boy problems and neither one of them were married or anything and they were, complaining that, they were having some relationship issues. So I'm sitting there and I'm at the table and I'm leaning forward. So I'm not touching anything and I'm just kind of resting my head on my hands. And so they're, saying, how they're, relationship problems and blah, blah, blah. And I made the comment, I'm like, yep, men suck. And as soon as I got done saying that, the spirits assumed I meant all men, which I kind of worded it that way. So I can understand why they thought that. I ended up scratched.
Oh wow, yeah,
And because I felt like a burning on my back, and I told my teammates, I'm like, my back's burning, and they're like, "Do you want us to check it out?" And then I'm like, "Yeah." And so I lifted up my shirt, and they're like, "Oh my God, Becky, you got 3 red marks." And I'm like, "Okay." And they're like, "Why are you not freaking out?" I'm like, "It's not the first time I've been scratched. It won't be the last time I've been scratched." But right then and there, I'm like, "I am so sorry I offended you. I didn't mean you guys. I meant their people." So I have to be very careful on what I say when I go to
yeah,
certain places because I forget that, you can also offend them if they're thinking that you're talking about them, even though you're not.
right,
So I had to apologize and I had to make it right because they did not like that. So,
mm, yeah. That'll teach you. We don't suck. Yeah,
yep.
yeah,
I was
that's
like,
good.
I learned my lesson. I'm sorry. I was trying to be a good friend and back my friends, but,
Right, yeah, yeah,
they just took it that I meant all men in general. And I was like, I'm sorry, I meant their men, not you. I'm like, I have to watch how I word things. But
so,
yeah, I ended up with 3 scratches after that. And my friends were like freaking out, but I was just like, whatever. It did not faze me at all.
so let me ask you this: do you think you guys get more activity because you're women? You know, does that make sense? Then probably men would, like, if there was like four men in a bar or prison or hospital, whatever. Do you think the different responses maybe?
Um, yes and no.
Okay.
When it comes to, I do believe women get better responses when it comes to children and other women, and some men, depending on the location. So, like, if you go to, for example, a jail, I think women are going to get more attention at the jail. If you go to a bar, yes, I do think women are going to get more attention at the bar. But if you go somewhere, I think more old fashioned and respectful, not necessarily, because of the fact that it depends on what kind of men resided there. They may be very respectful and they may be offended by what women wear nowadays because we're not covered from head to toe like they used to be. And I found myself having to apologize for that in certain locations. Like, I'm sorry if I'm in a tank top and showing my ankles and things like that. Because I think some men are kind of shocked that women dress like that nowadays. And I think some of them are kind of thrown back by that. Um, so I think for the most part, women do get more attention and more interaction when it comes to certain things. But if you get this really old fashioned man who's very respectful and things like that, he may not talk to you because of either the way you're dressed or because of the fact that you're a woman.
Mhm.
And he may only communicate with other men. So I think it depends on the spirit.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense too. And yeah, I've actually heard um, like if women go somewhere and like typically women weren't allowed in this area for at this certain time in history, they can actually get like hair pulled or even pushed, like don't come here, you're not allowed here, kind of stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's because of how things were back then.
Mhm.
I think, when it comes to, like I said, we definitely get more interaction with children and women. And I think that's because of the fact that women feel comfortable with women,
Yes.
over a man. And children, of course, feel more comfortable with women because of the motherly figure.
Yeah.
I know whenever I would go on locations with children, I would talk about my children, and I got interacted with the children a lot because of that. In fact, I've had some of those children spirits follow me home because of the fact that they knew I had,
Yeah.
children. And I saw an apparition actually in my daughter's room one time because it had, the little girl followed me home because she knew I had daughters. And she was in my daughter's room playing with the toys.
Oh,
And
okay.
I thought it was one of my daughters. I literally thought it was one of my daughters until I went into my living room and saw that my daughters were in the living room. So there's no way they were in the bedroom that I had just passed by. But I saw clear as day a little girl playing on the floor.
So anytime something has followed you home, has anyone else in the household noticed that, hey, you brought something home?
Yes. 100 times yes. And it's happened more than once. It's happened several times. Well, I should say I had a spirit attached to me for months, and I'm talking months. My kids ended up nicknaming him Richie because of the fact that everyone in the house had either seen him, heard him, or something happened to that they witnessed. Um, like they would see the shadows walking down the hallway. They would hear footsteps. But it got to the point that my kids were little at the time. Anytime anything would break or drop, they would blame Richie. So they would do it, but they would blame Richie for it.
Oh,
They thought it was their free
yeah,
pass.
there you go. There you hey. Yeah,
So
Richie.
I'd be like, "What was that?" And they'd be like, "We don't know. That must have been Richie."
Yeah, Richie ordered all this stuff on Amazon, Mom. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And it was so funny because once they started doing that, we noticed less and less activity from Richie.
Okay.
So I was like, "You girls made him leave because you kept blaming him for
So
everything."
was Richie a kid too, or
No, he was actually a grown adult. He
oh,
was a male. Um, he he liked me for whatever reason. I don't know if he liked redheads or what. I don't know. He had this habit of playing with my hair.
mm,
Like he would always play with my hair. Um, but he followed me around for the longest time. Like he would literally with me. And the reason why we know this is because we would catch his voice. And with his voice, there was always kind of like, I don't know if I want to call it a bell or a chime, but for some reason, whenever he was around, that would also show up besides his voice, that bell or charm. So we would always know it was him. My co-lead investigator and I caught on to that pretty quick. We were like, wait a minute, that's the guy from the other investigation. He's talking here too. So he was with me for quite some time. I don't know whatever happened to him. I still say it's because my kids kept blaming him for everything.
Right.
But he did follow me around for the longest time.
So do you do anything to like protect yourself when you leave an investigation?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So I tell my team, tell them, it was nice talking to them, but they're not allowed to follow you home. They must stay here. Um, and I allow my team, depending on, what they feel, what they believe in, to, carry any religious item or what have you, that they would protect them. I personally do not carry anything for protection, although I do have things stored away in case we do need them. But like I have holy water, a rosary, a Bible, all that is stored away in case we ever have to need it. But I've been doing this for 12 years, and in all reality, I have never once.
Well, Becky, I don't know if you can hear me, but you froze up. So all I heard was you never once, and that was it. Um, we'll see if she catches on here in a little bit, or hope you guys can hear me or see me. Ah, or if you guys can still see her, let me know. But oh, there she goes. She'll probably have to log back in. So, Miss Sandra, if you're still on, I hope you're doing well. And I don't know if you caught the beginning of the show, but uh, I'm probably going to go down to once a month doing this. It's kind of taking up a lot of my time. And I've got other things going on in my life. And it's all good things, of course, but it's been quite the balancing act. And so I'm trying to get my priorities straight. Yeah, hopefully she will come back. So like my next show, I have a show next week. I don't even know what day it's going to fall on. I originally wanted to start doing recordings, but I can't do recordings on this StreamYard, on this Restream. So I have to go live to at least one channel. So I don't know why. Well, I have to pay it to keep up recording, and I don't. That's another thing too. I'm getting tired of paying it. So, but we'll see what happens, Miss Sandra. Like I said, I'll probably just go down to once a month. I'll probably do one show like the first week of November, and then one show the first week of December, and just kind of from that one. Let's see, she can get back on here. Let's see, no, she's not here. Yeah, but yeah, it was funny. She was talking about rosaries. So part of what I've been doing lately is I've been making my own rosaries. They're on Marketplace. This is one of them I made. It's not mine, but it's somebody else's. But I made this. It's pretty cool, I think. I like it. So I've been making those. Then I've been making the pocket rosaries also. This is my personal one. So that's kind of what I've been doing. It's kind of been taking up a lot of my time, actually. My wife's been helping me do it because we've been getting some pretty good orders in. So here she goes. Okay, Miss Becky. Glad you made
Okay,
it.
apparently we lost each other.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. You just froze up.
Oh.
But yeah, what's funny is that you talked about, because we're talking about like protecting yourself when during investigations or even coming home, and you
And then
mentioned
I just
rosary.
disappeared.
Yeah, and you mentioned rosaries, and it was just so funny that because like I was telling our viewers that I make rosaries
Oh.
This is yeah. This is one of them. It's not mine. It belongs to somebody else. But I made this for somebody. Um, but yeah, I've been doing that, and then I make my own like pocket rosaries. This is my personal one. But yeah, this is like a little pocket rosary. You
Oh,
know,
how cool.
yeah, you can clip it on your backpack or throw it in your purse, or I put mine around my stick shift in my car. That's what I do. Yeah, we and so me and my wife started doing that. Well, I started doing it, and then of course she has to help me. We've got so many orders. It's kind of hard to keep up with it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I have a rosary in every car I'm ever in. I have it in with my paranormal stuff.
Hmm.
So yeah, I do carry rosaries. That's one of the things I have. So
Okay, good man, cool. Well, if you ever need a rosary, shoot me a message. It's called Iron Faith Rosaries, and we are on Instagram. Just wanted to throw that out there.
oh,
Um, yeah, and that's like that's part of the reason why this it's kind of been like I said, it's taken off pretty good. So um, it's I'd rather do that honestly. Make the rosaries and uh, are you Catholic by the way, or are you just
I was raised Catholic.
okay?
I'm not a practicing Catholic right now. No.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
When it
happy to get
comes to
off.
religion, I kind of, I still have my Catholic beliefs. So that's like my fundamental, I guess, belief, I
Mhm.
guess. But I've come to, I don't know, just be more spiritual and believe that, I don't have to put my butt in a church every week to, find what I'm looking for. Actually, the paranormal actually kind of changed my beliefs.
Okay,
So I kind of started leaning more towards being more spiritual and, I still believe in God. Don't get me wrong. I don't believe in any particular religion. I guess that's the way to put it. I'm not attached to any religion. Uh, so it's hard for me to explain because, like I said, I do
no,
believe in God. I've had a lot of bad experiences with a bunch of religions, and I think that's kind of what turned me off to religion in general. I've been told from other religions that I'm working for the devil. Uh, things like that. So it kind of made
yeah, don't listen to what other people tell you. You know what's in your heart. You know what's in your mind.
yes,
You know what's in your soul. People,
yes,
just want to make these blanket statements that they don't know what's going on.
yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
yeah. I had kind of fallen away. I know we are talking about religion now, right? I kind of fell away from the church for several years. Man, I've been close to 12, 13 years. And so just recently I got back. And don't ask me why, but the first things when I started doing this, it was rosaries that were popping up in my head. And I just knew I had to make rosaries. And that's I got back into the church. So that's what happened to me. Yeah.
Mm.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It's just like something was calling me.
I have nothing against any religion. In fact, I'm curious about religions. Like, I want to learn about every single religion, which there's too many to learn about, though. But
Yeah.
it's like, I find it fascinating what different religions believe in and, what they do. That's just something that I find fascinating, but I just don't find myself drawn to any in particular religion anymore. And I've known of people who have never set foot in a church that are the kindest, sweetest people I've ever
Oh
met.
yeah.
And then I've met people that go to church every week that are the most evil. So
And
I
meanest
don't
people.
feel
Yeah.
that religion makes you a good person.
Yeah. Yeah.
I believe it's, what you practice outside of, the building than whether what you practice inside of the building. So that's kind of where my beliefs stand. I don't need a building to go worship, what I believe in and to be a good person.
Yeah. Um, I did want to ask you something else. I didn't want to get too far off the topic, but I did want to ask you something else. What advice would you have for like a beginner who wanted to get back or who wanted to get into the paranormal? Like, what kind of advice would you give them?
I would definitely say respect, research, and in all reality, kindness. You want to be kind to everyone that you deal with. Um, there are so many mean people out there, like we just mentioned, so many evil people out there. So you want to be kind. You want to be respectful to the spirits. You want to be respectful to the property. And research is very, very important, not only to learn about your equipment, the history. but you also want to research, again, people. Um, People is very important. I know you mentioned at the beginning of the program about researching your researchers. We need to do that too. When it comes to paranormal cases, we research the clients and we encourage the clients to research us so they know who they're letting into their home. We won't take anyone on the team who has, like, a major bad criminal record type thing, because of, we don't want to bring someone like that into a house. But we have had cases to where we've had to research the people, and it's like the person that wanted us to come in was a sex offender,
Oh yeah.
and we're an all female team. So yeah, no, we're not doing that. But definitely, the research goes beyond just, the paranormal and your equipment, but, of the properties and the people that you're going to be working with, and kindness and respect.
Yeah, and you know what? You remind me of a story. I had a friend of mine. He lives in Florida. He's a Bigfoot researcher, and these people were having issues. And he went to their property, and he checked out the property. And we legit think that these people were having issues, right, with Bigfoot. But
Mhm.
we legit think that these people were kind of cuckoo, also. All right, because he goes into the house and he goes, he sits down to talk to the people. He says, and he goes, I look across the living room and there's a chair, and it has, like, in the arms of the chair, there's like these eye bolts. You know what eye bolts are? Those big long bolts with a round circle where you can, tie stuff
Okay.
to. There was one on each arm and one on each leg of the chair, right? And he was just like, that looks like you could tie somebody down to this chair, right? And he said he was focused on this chair and he was like kind of getting weirded out. And then the lady goes, do you want some tea? And he's like, yeah, I'll take some tea. He goes, she walks to the kitchen and comes back out instantly. Like, she doesn't go in there to make tea. She goes in there, grabs the glass, and comes back out and gives him the tea. And he just says, I couldn't even drink it. I had to set it down. It was already made, you know? And he says, hey, I got to go outside and make a phone call real quick. And he says he got in his truck and he left. Yeah,
Yeah,
and yeah, when he told me about it, I said, man, that sounds so weird. That sounded so
yeah.
weird. Yeah,
Yeah, some of the people, again, you have to, be concerned about your safety. And
yeah.
that's why I say the ghosts don't scare me. It's the people that scare me.
Hmm.
And we've had some wonderful clients, don't get me wrong. I've made,
Oh, yeah.
good friendships with, some of our clients. But there have been times to where we've had to turn down cases because the clients have iffy backgrounds that we did not want to get involved in.
Right.
And then you do have to keep in mind that sometimes they're not mentally there either. Because I did take on a case that I felt, the woman seriously needed help, and I felt bad for her. But the more we worked with her, the more we saw it was a mental issue, not a paranormal issue. And we had to find a way to calmly back down without offending her. But it got to the point to where, we told her it wasn't paranormal activity because she was paranoid. She was always being watched and all this stuff. And we're like, it's not paranormal. And then she started in on it was her ex then. And she started wanting my husband to escort her to certain places to get certain things. And we're like, yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
So, it is a field that you do have to be careful on, because of the fact that you never know what you're going to run into. And the people do, scare me a little bit more than the spirits, but the spirits can, if you upset them, they're going to not be nice to you too. So,
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, cool, man. We're coming up at the end of the show, and I wanted to give you a chance to kind of plug your channel, your social medias, whatever you got going on, or let people
okay.
know where they can find you. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I basically have every social media out there. I use TikTok and Facebook and Instagram the most. My personal ones are under Becky McKiddy-Gydesen. I believe that's probably up on the screen where they can learn how to spell that. Um, then my website is TucsonGhostCompany.com. And all my business stuff is under Tucson Ghost Company and Society. And then I also do a podcast. We're on a short break right now. We're coming back in probably November. That's called Everything Under the Moon, and we air that through Web Radio Network, but it does air on my Facebooks when they do come back. And we do that like a bi-weekly thing, and that should be coming back sometime in November. I got to work out some final details still. But other than that, I think that about covers it. Oh, and I am going to be publishing my first ever book, hopefully in 2026.
Cool. Yeah, when you get that published, man, shoot me a message. I'll be happy to share it for you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And if you have anything else going on you want me to share or whatever, just let me know and tag me in it or send me a link and I'll be sure to promote it for you.
Okay. I just want to encourage all your listeners to shop local because right now I know the economy sucks. And I've talked to a lot of local people, other local ghost tours, other local businesses, and everyone's suffering. So if you are going to take a ghost tour or you are going to go out and spend that money, look for someone who is local, small business, and please give them your money instead of those big chains and those nationwide things.
I completely agree. I completely agree with that statement. Well, thank you, Sandra, for tuning in. Sandra has been with me since day one. She's been with me forever. Yeah, good deal. Well, cool. Well, everyone, like I said, I'll have a show next week. I don't know what day, but I'll let you guys know. And if you guys have anything in particular you want me to talk about, shoot me an email, beyond.woodline@gmail.com, and I'll try to put that show together for you guys. And other than that, don't go anywhere, Becky. Hold on. And everyone else, I will see you next week. I don't know where my trailer's at. Oh, there we go.